So there's been a lot of questions on my page in the comment section about why there must be a 7-year tribulation. Why is there a literal 7 years? How do people know for sure that the tribulation will last for 7 years? Well, I want to dive into that and give you a quick summary of what it says in Scripture. So it regards the 70 weeks of Daniel. The word tribulation is a popular term to describe the 7-year period when most future Bible prophecy events will take place. Another term that talks about the same time frame is the 70th week of Daniel. The 70th week of Daniel comes from Daniel's prophecy of 70 weeks. Gabriel told Daniel that 70 weeks have been given to the people of Israel and the city of Jerusalem to bring about several things. It says in Daniel 9, starting in verse 24, 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city, to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, and to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Verse 25. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem, notice that phrase, going forth of the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem unto the Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks. Pay attention to that. 7 weeks. In 62 weeks the street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times. Verse 26. And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the war desolations are determined. So that's Daniel 9, verses 24 through 26, in case you want to go back and reference that verse. Now, most Christians who study Bible prophecy agree that the first 69 weeks of this prophecy was fulfilled over a period of several hundred years. So the start of that first week was in Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 1 through 5, where they called to rebuild Jerusalem in the 20th year of Xerxes. Excuse me, I can't even say that. His reign. The end of the 69th week was the death and ascension of Jesus Christ. Therefore, Gabriel did not mean 70 literal weeks, where each week is 7 days in length. Now, let's take a deeper look at the 70th week of Daniel, or the tribulation. So we can find the length of a prophetic week by looking at the 70th week of Daniel. The Antichrist will confirm a covenant with Israel and others for a week, but will break it at the midpoint of the week. Let's look at Daniel 9, verse 27. It says, and he, the Antichrist, shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease, and the overspreading of the abominations he shall make it desolate, even unto the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. I know that's a lot of hard terminology, but we're going to break this down. So it says that there are 3.5 halves. Okay, so you have a week, which is 7 years, and then you have 3.5 and 3.5. The second half of the week will be a time of severe persecution. This period of time will last for time, a times, and the dividing of time, which is 3.5 years. Notice what it says in Daniel chapter 7, verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, meaning the Antichrist, and they shall be given into his hand until, there's that phrase, a time, times, and the dividing of time, 3.5 years. Now, the Hebrew word for time is moed, which can also mean a year. Nearly every commentator who looks at Daniel's 70th week of prophecy agrees that the time, times, and dividing time means 3.5 years. So that's settled pretty much in stone regarding prophecy teachers. The second half of the 70th week of Daniel is 3.5 years long. So a prophetic week is a 7-year period. Let me read that again. The second half of Daniel's 70th week is 3.5 years long, so a prophetic week is a 7-year period. Now let's look at where it says 1,260 days in Scripture. Now we learned that 3.5 prophetic years is the same as 1,260 days as in Revelation chapter 12, verse 6 and 14. And it says in verse 14, "And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and a half a time from the face of the serpent," 3.5 years. Look in verse 6 of Revelation 12. "And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days." Now, if we divide 1,260 days by 3.5 years, we will find that a prophetic year is 360 days long. Now, we can break that down to 42 months. So 3.5 years can also be defined as 42 months, as in Revelation 11, 2 through 3. Let's turn there. Revelation 11, 2 through 3 says, "But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles. And the holy city shall they tread under foot for 42 months. And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth." So let's wrap that up. Therefore, a prophetic month is 30 days long, as 1,260 days divided by 42 months equals 30 days. Let's put it all together. Given this information, we can confirm that the 70th week of Daniel, or the tribulation period, will last for 7 years, or 2,520 days, in 3 different ways. We can break it down to 30 days, which is a prophetic month. You take 30 days, you times 42 prophetic months, in half of a prophetic week, times 2 halves is 2,520 days. I'll have this up on my screen so it's a little easier for you guys to read. Then we can go down and say 7 prophetic years. In a prophetic week, times 360 days in a prophetic year equals 2,520 days. And then we also get 2,520 days if we take 1,260 days in times and half, times 2 halves. Now, I know this is all extremely confusing to many of you who are listening to this for the first time, but it all equals out in God's timetable. Now, you may also hear of a term called the Great Tribulation. The tribulation and the Great Tribulation are not the same thing. So the Great Tribulation is that last 3.5 years where where the bowl judgments and the trumpet judgments are poured out. The first half of 7 years is what we call the seal judgments, and that's the general beginning of the tribulation. I will include some links for your reference, and I hope this was helpful to understand why the tribulation is 7 literal years. God bless.